Queensberry era. In 1867, the Marquess of Queensberry rules formally reshaped boxing into a codified sport. These rules introduced 3-minute rounds with 1-minute breaks, ensuring fighters operated under a fixed rhythm rather than endless brawls. A 10-second count for knockdowns standardized recovery, replacing subjective judgments by referees. Most significantly, padded gloves were made mandatory. This innovation reduced the frequency of cuts and broken hands while also changing punching techniques, since fighters could throw with more force without damaging their fists. Wrestling holds, which had been common in bare-knuckle contests, were banned, further separating boxing from other forms of combat sport.
By 1882, John L. Sullivan embodied the new age. Known as the Boston Strong Boy, he became the first gloved heavyweight champion and the sport's first mainstream star. His dominance drew massive crowds and helped legitimize boxing under the new rule set. In 1899, James J. Jeffries carried the lineage forward with a reign built on strength and durability.
The turning point came in 1908, when Jack Johnson captured the heavyweight crown, becoming the first African-American champion and challenging both athletic and social barriers under Queensberry's framework.
Golden Age.
By the 1920s, boxing had ascended into one of the 3 most popular sports in the world, alongside baseball and horse racing. A major reason was the work of promoter Tex Rickard, who transformed boxing events into national spectacles. At the same time, radio broadcasting was emerging, carrying live commentary of title fights into homes across the country and expanding the sport's reach far beyond arenas. Inside the ring, Jack Dempsey symbolized the era's ferocity. His relentless aggression and heavy hooks not only demolished opponents but also broke attendance records. Stadiums filled with tens of thousands, and his fights became cultural milestones. Yet skill could still outweigh raw power.
In 1926, Gene Tunney outmaneuvered Dempsey with disciplined footwork and precise counterpunching to win the heavyweight crown. Their rematch in 1927 produced the long count fight, when Tunney survived a delayed 10-count knockdown and went on to secure victory, creating one of boxing's most famous controversies. By the late 1930s, Joe Louis had risen as the Brown Bomber. His combination of textbook technique and knockout power made him a dominant champion. Lewis's 1938 rematch victory over German fighter Max Schmeling carried immense political and symbolic weight, representing more than sport during a tense pre-war climate. This period cemented boxing as both athletic contest and cultural event.
Post-war champions. After World War II, boxing adapted to a new era of mass media. On June 18, 1946, Joe Louis defended his title against Billy Conn in what became the first heavyweight championship broadcast live on television.
Millions of Americans watched from their homes, signaling a shift in how the sport would reach its audience. Louis's power remained intact, but by 1949, he relinquished the crown to Ezzard Charles, a skilled counterpuncher whose style emphasized precision and timing over brute force. That same decade produced Rocky Marciano, a fighter defined by relentless aggression and a devastating right hand. In 1952, Marciano won the heavyweight championship by knocking out Jersey Joe Walcott, beginning an undefeated reign that lasted until his retirement in 1956 with a perfect record of 49 wins and no losses. His unyielding style captured the public imagination and set a standard for durability.
Meanwhile, Sugar Ray Robinson dominated the lighter divisions.
Sugar Ray Robinson era.
Sugar Ray Robinson is often regarded as the most complete fighter in boxing history, and his dominance in the 1940s and 1950s marked an era centered on his brilliance. Robinson began his professional career in 1940 and quickly compiled an extraordinary record. Between 1943 and 1951, he went undefeated for over 90 fights, a feat unmatched in modern boxing. His style blended fast combinations, elusive footwork, and ring intelligence in a way that allowed him to control distance and dictate the pace against virtually any opponent. As welterweight champion from 1946 to 1951, Robinson showcased how speed and precision could neutralize bigger punchers. Moving up in weight, he captured the middleweight title multiple times throughout the 1950s, solidifying his legacy across divisions. His rivalry with Jake LaMotta highlighted his adaptability. Robinson's 6 victories in their series, including the famous St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1951, demonstrated both his technical mastery and his ability to endure punishing fights. Robinson's cultural presence also mattered. He embodied style and charisma outside the ring, running businesses in Harlem and influencing the image of the modern athlete. His combination of dominance, versatility, and flair earned him recognition as boxing's first true pound-for-pound king.
Ali era. In 1960, Cassius Clay won Olympic gold in Rome, introducing himself as a new force in boxing. 4 years later, at only 22 years old, he shocked the world by defeating Sonny Liston for the heavyweight championship. Clay's style broke from convention. He kept his hands low, moved with constant lateral motion, and relied on lightning-fast jabs and reflexes. His declaration, "I am the greatest," announced a personality as bold as his technique. Shortly after, Clay embraced a new identity as Muhammad Ali, joining the Nation of Islam and redefining himself both socially and spiritually. In 1967, his refusal to be drafted into the Vietnam War cost him his title and 3 prime years of his career. Yet the absence only magnified his stature, transforming him into a cultural icon whose influence extended far beyond the ring. When Ali returned in 1970, the heavyweight division had become fiercely competitive. His trilogy with Joe Frazier produced the fight of the century in 1971, which Ali lost, and the Thrilla in Manila in 1975, a brutal contest that ended with Frazier's corner stopping the fight. In 1974, Ali faced George Foreman in Zaire in the Rumble in the Jungle. Using the rope-a-dope strategy, he absorbed Foreman's power punches until his opponent tired, then scored an 8th-round knockout to regain the championship. Ali's career extended into the late 1970s, including bouts with Leon Spinks and a final run before retiring in 1981. His era fused athletic excellence with political and cultural resonance, making him both a dominant champion and a symbol of resistance and change. Four Kings era. The 1980s middleweight and welterweight divisions were defined by 4 fighters whose rivalries elevated boxing to unprecedented levels. Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Marvin Hagler. Each brought a unique style that contrasted sharply with the others, producing some of the most memorable battles in modern boxing. Roberto Duran, known as Hands of Stone, had already established himself as a dominant lightweight before moving up in weight. His ferocious inside fighting and resilience made him a threat to any opponent. In 1980, he defeated Sugar Ray Leonard in Montreal, shocking the boxing world. Leonard, however, adapted in their rematch later that year, using movement and speed to outclass Duran in what became the famous No Mas fight, when Duran quit mid-bout. Thomas Hearns, with his exceptional height and 78-inch reach, carried knockout power in both hands. His 1981 clash with Leonard was a high-stakes meeting between speed and power. Leonard rallied late, stopping Hearns in the 14th round. Marvin Hagler, reigning as middleweight champion, brought durability and relentless pressure. His 1985 fight against Hearns lasted only 3 rounds, but is remembered as one of the most explosive contests in boxing history. The Leonard-Hagler fight in 1987 capped the era. Leonard's tactical execution edged a narrow decision, a verdict still debated today. Together, the 4 kings fought each other in a web of rivalries that kept public attention fixed on the sport, showcasing contrasting styles at their highest level. Tyson's rise. In 1986, Mike Tyson emerged as the youngest heavyweight champion in history at just 20 years old, defeating Trevor Berbick in 2 rounds. His style, crafted under trainer Cus D'Amato, emphasized the peekaboo guard, high hands, constant head movement, and explosive counters launched from a compact stance. Tyson's blend of speed and power overwhelmed opponents before they could mount effective strategies. From 1986 to 1988, Tyson unified the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles, becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion. His fights often ended in the early rounds, creating an aura of inevitability around his presence in the ring. Tyson's 91-second knockout of Michael Spinks in 1988 became one of the most famous moments in boxing history, demonstrating both his destructive force and the psychological impact he carried into bouts. Tyson's appeal extended globally. He revitalized the heavyweight division with an image of raw aggression, contrasting sharply with the drawn-out contests of prior champions. Every appearance became a major event, amplified by television coverage and pay-per-view growth. By the late 1980s, Tyson had established himself as the most feared fighter in the world, representing both the pinnacle of heavyweight dominance and the sport's shift toward a faster-paced, media-driven spectacle. 90s heavyweights. On February 11th, 1990, Mike Tyson's aura of invincibility was shattered. In Tokyo, underdog James "Buster" Douglas outboxed and eventually knocked Tyson out in the 10th round, producing one of the greatest upsets in sports history. The loss opened the heavyweight division to new contenders and marked the end of Tyson's initial reign. Evander Holyfield soon rose to prominence. Nicknamed the Real Deal, Holyfield became heavyweight champion in 1990 and defended his title with a combination of toughness and stamina. His trilogy with Riddick Bowe in the early 1990s showcased brutal exchanges and shifting momentum, with Holyfield winning 2 of the 3 encounters. These fights reinforced the depth of talent in the division and kept public attention fixed on heavyweight clashes. Meanwhile, Lennox Lewis emerged as a new force. A 1988 Olympic gold medalist, Lewis turned professional, and by the mid-1990s had captured the WBC title. His disciplined jab and size advantage allowed him to outclass opponents systematically. By the late decade, Lewis unified the heavyweight titles by defeating Holyfield in their 1999 rematch, cementing his position as the dominant champion moving into the 2000s. Lennox Lewis era. Lennox Lewis established himself as the defining heavyweight of the late 1990s and early 2000s. Standing 6 feet 5 inches with an 84-inch reach, he used his physical advantages in combination with technical precision. His jab became the centerpiece of his strategy, controlling range and setting up right hands that ended fights decisively. Lewis first claimed the WBC title in 1993, but faced setbacks, including a loss to Oliver McCall. Demonstrating resilience, he regained championships and refined his style under trainer Emanuel Steward. Steward emphasized balance, punch selection, and disciplined defense, transforming Lewis into a complete heavyweight who could dominate tactically as well as physically. The pinnacle of his reign came in 1999 and 2000 when Lewis defeated Evander Holyfield in their 2-fight series, unifying the major heavyweight titles. He later secured legacy-defining victories over David Tua, Michael Grant, and Mike Tyson in 2002, dismantling Tyson with a combination of control and power. His 2003 victory over Vitaly Klitschko, though stopped on cuts, further reinforced his toughness against elite opposition. Lewis retired in 2004 as the undisputed champion, one of the few heavyweights to leave the sport on top. His era emphasized professionalism, technical mastery, and consistent dominance at the highest level of competition. Roy Jones Jr. era. Roy Jones Jr. dominated the 1990s and early 2000s across multiple weight classes, redefining athleticism in boxing. Starting as a middleweight, he captured titles at super middleweight, light heavyweight, and eventually heavyweight, displaying speed and reflexes that seemed unmatched. His style was unconventional, hands low, sudden explosive counters, and footwork that allowed him to dart in and out before opponents could react. In 1993, Jones won his first world title at middleweight by defeating Bernard Hopkins, controlling the fight with speed and accuracy. He moved up to super middleweight and scored decisive victories, including a showcase against James Toney in 1994, where his dominance solidified him as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters. At light heavyweight, Jones unified titles and defended them throughout the late 1990s, often making elite opponents appear overmatched. His most remarkable achievement came in 2003, when he defeated John Ruiz to win a heavyweight title. This made Jones the first former middleweight champion in over 100 years to capture a heavyweight belt. His reign highlighted not just technical skill, but extraordinary physical gifts that defined him as a generational talent. Jones's era underscored the possibility of dominance across divisions, a rarity in boxing history. Mayweather Pacquiao era. The early 2000s to mid-2010s were defined by the parallel rise of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, two fighters whose contrasting styles and global followings created one of boxing's greatest rivalries. Floyd Mayweather, nicknamed Money, built his career on defensive mastery. His use of the shoulder roll, precise counterpunching, and footwork allowed him to neutralize opponents while taking minimal punishment. By the time he defeated Oscar De La Hoya in 2007, Mayweather had established himself as the sport's pay-per-view king, combining technical excellence with unmatched business acumen. Manny Pacquiao, in contrast, stormed through weight divisions with speed and aggression. Beginning as a flyweight, he captured titles in 8 divisions, more than any fighter in history. His southpaw stance, straight left hand, and relentless volume overwhelmed opponents across multiple eras. By 2010, he was widely considered the most exciting offensive fighter in the sport. Their long-anticipated meeting finally took place on May 2nd, 2015. As global icons. This era demonstrated how contrasting styles and personalities could expand boxing's commercial reach while sustaining its competitive intrigue. Modern era. The current era of boxing is not defined by a single ruler, but by a diverse group of champions and an evolving media landscape. At super middleweight, Saul Canelo Alvarez has become the face of global boxing. After unifying all 4 major titles in 2021, he established himself as the undisputed champion at 168 pounds. His resume spans victories from light middleweight to light heavyweight, showcasing adaptability across divisions. In 2025, Canelo remains at the forefront, headlining a landmark event against Terence Crawford at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Scheduled to stream live worldwide on Netflix, this bout underscores both his enduring relevance and the sport's shift away from traditional pay-per-view. In the heavyweight division, Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk have shaped a new era of rivalry. Fury ended Vladimir Klitschko's long reign in 2015 and cemented his status through a trilogy with Deontay Wilder. Usyk, the former undisputed cruiserweight champion, moved up and defeated Anthony Joshua twice before claiming undisputed heavyweight honors against Fury. Together, they represent a period where technical skill, movement, and adaptability have redefined expectations in boxing's most storied weight class. At lighter weights, Terence Crawford and Gervonta Tank Davis command U.S. attention. Crawford's tactical precision and ability to adjust mid-fight have earned him recognition as the sport's pound-for-pound leader. Davis, with explosive knockout power, consistently draws massive crowds, proving the continued market for action-driven fighters. Ryan Garcia, with his blend of speed and social media influence, represents boxing's ability to reach younger audiences through digital platforms. Equally transformative is how fans access the sport. Streaming services like DAZN, ESPN Plus, and Netflix now dominate distribution, while Saudi-backed promotions bring major events to global audiences. The announced matchup between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul exemplifies the blending of elite competition with crossover spectacle. Paul's influence outside the sport, paired with Davis's established credentials, highlights how boxing's modern era thrives on both legitimacy and entertainment.